time now for the Dan Williams Show, brought to you by Witt's Barbecue, by Farmers Insurance Agent Ken Hanna, by Chick-fil-A, and by Jared Hester from Edward Jones. Now here's your host, Dan Williams.
Thank you, Tim. It's another great day and beautiful day in Athens, Limestone County. Really looks like spring this morning. Maybe all the bad weather's gone and we can get on with what we all do in spring is planting our tomatoes too early and another frost coming by and killing all of them. We've got a good show for you this morning. We're going to be talking about parental alienation that's involved with our court system and child custody cases. And we have a couple of guests with us, one in the studio and one's going to be on the phone. First of all, Mark Davis, who is the Director of Communications for the Alabama Family Rights Association, is in the studio with us. And I think we have on the phone Kenneth Paschal, who is the Director of Governmental Affairs. Are you there, Kenneth?
Yes, Dan, and definitely appreciate you and thank you for covering this topic again.
Well, we appreciate you making yourself available by phone, and so we'll be talking with you and Mark here about this fact. To start out with, Governor Bentley has recently signed a resolution declaring April 21st through 27th as Parental Alienation Prevention Week. And he signed the resolution specifically for April 25th as Parental Alienation Awareness Day in Alabama. So I think y'all have worked on getting that done. And I believe, Kenneth, I saw a picture of the signing that included you in that signing.
Well, yes, it did. Governor Bentley, matter of fact, Governor Raleigh in 2008 signed the first proclamation for the state. And since then, we have increased our support. Governor Bentley has signed the proclamation on March. And since then, we have had 43 mayors throughout the state sign a similar proclamation declaring this week as Parental Prevention Week and April 25th as Parental Alienation Awareness Day. Because with the increase of custody situations, many times due to the lopsided custody arrangement, the parents will attempt to alienate the child from one parent and even their extended family. And those in the psychological community have said this is the worst form of child abuse out there that people is unaware of. So the Alabama Family Rights Association is really trying to work hard to educate people, because with education, with awareness comes education and a better understanding and the ability to stop this form of child abuse. Yeah,
okay. Now, the association is working hard to get the information out to educate people about it, and this signing, that's a good publicity event to bring awareness about. Mark, when people ask you or you're talking about this, when they ask what is parental alienation, what do you tell them? How do you define parental alienation?
Basically, it's where you have a child that's alienated against one of their parents.
Yeah. So it could be either parent.
It could be either parent, and typically I think the research has shown that when you place one parent in control of a child, then that makes the child automatically think that the other parent's not as important. The extended families are not as important. And if you limit a child to 80 days a year with one parent, out of 19 years of that child's life, that only equates to 4 years.
Yeah.
And so, you can't have a parent-child relationship with both parents with a lopsided time split like that.
Okay, you could have the situation where the child is going to think there's something wrong there with that other.
Exactly.
Now, I've done a little research on this, and when we're talking about what parental alienation syndrome is, that's a term that's been used since the 1980s. The gentleman that coined this term, I think, says signs of this, or the way you tell that a child is involved in this, is the child denigrates the alienated parent with opposing behavior, foul language, or anything. I mean, it's something about the child that sees something wrong with that parent, and they don't like it, or the child offers weak, absurd, or frivolous reasons for their anger. Why are you so upset with your parent? And they don't really know why, but they can't answer that question. The child can be sure of himself. The only thing he may demonstrate towards that parent would be a hatred or something like that. The child supports or feels a need to protect the alienated parent. The parent that might be causing the child to be alienated towards the other parent, the child will be maybe protective of that parent. And then the animosity, as you say, goes to extended family, friends, and everything of the alienated parent. Most
children are going to want to be actively involved with both parents.
Yeah.
And, we're talking fit parents here. We're not talking about, let's say a child goes with one parent for the weekend and the parent gets arrested for DUI.
Yeah.
And the police are involved. Nothing with domestic violence, something that would actually terrify the child. But I'm saying when you got two parents that are fit, and one of the misconceptions in the state of Alabama that part of our educational process that I don't think our legislators or the judges or even the citizens realize is our United States Supreme Court has indicated that in rulings multiple times, it is presumed that a parent is fit. That's the presumption that a parent's fit. And you can't, and just because parents are divorcing, or if maybe they were living together, they're no longer together anymore, just because those parents split up, you can't presume that one parent's automatically unfit. And that's kind of what's happened with our court system.
Now, is that something that's just only in Alabama court systems, or you think that's through nationwide?
I think it's nationwide, but I know that different states handle things differently. I don't know that other states automatically presume that one parent's unfit.
Yeah.
But you've got to presume that a parent's going to act in a child's best interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask the question. I think we lost Kenneth there. But this thing with courts presuming, it seems like that maybe most people think that Kenneth's back with us. No, he's not.
This is Linda back with us.
Linda?
Yeah, Linda Gottlieb.
Oh, Linda Gottlieb.
I just got out of court. They saw me appear, and then they decided what to settle. So.
Okay, well, Linda, I'm Dan Williams. This is a show. I have Mark Davis, who's the Director of Communications with Alabama Family Rights Association on here. And I certainly want to welcome you to the Dan Williams Show.
Okay.
Linda is Linda Gottlieb. I think I pronounced that right.
That's Linda Gottlieb.
Gottlieb is...
Linda Kase Gottlieb.
Okay. And I think you're in New York?
Yes, I'm in New York.
And give us your title and what you do, Linda.
Okay, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker with R privileges, which means I can diagnose from the diagnostic and statistical manual, just like psychiatrists do.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking, we just began this program, we're talking about parental alienation syndrome. Matter of fact, I think you've written a book about that.
Written a book about it, yes, that's correct. It was published last year. Okay.
Well, let me give you this and get your reaction to it. When I was doing a little research about the parental alienation syndrome, and I've talked with Mark Davis here before and Kenneth Paschal, who works the legislature quite a bit. But one thing I found out, or it seems to be, that parental alienation syndrome is really it doesn't seem to be recognized by the medical or legal communities as a disorder. It's been criticized as lacking scientific validity and reliability. Maybe it's not listed in the American Psychiatric Association diagnostic.
Well, that's where I totally disagree. First of all, it is listed there.
Okay.
It has a V code of 60.21, I think it is. It's an example of a very dysfunctional parent-child relationship. And so I have argued that it has always been in there by the behavior, even if it's not in there by name or label. And I don't see any purpose for getting hung up on a label.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, any family therapist will tell you that we have 60 years of anecdotal and research by the child psychiatrist who later founded the family therapy movement, that this family dynamic exists, it's real, and it's very detrimental to children. And you want to know just how detrimental it is to children? It creates psychosis in them.
Yeah.
That is exactly where the child my mentor, Salvador Minuchin, for example, Murray Bowen, for example, Don Jackson, these were all child psychiatrists who noticed this dysfunction, and they noticed it on the psychiatric wards when their child patient would improve, and then after a family visit, they would regress. So they started to make the connection that something must be going on in the family that caused these children to regress when they had been improving. So they began to observe the visits. And what did they see? They saw that the parents would engage in an argument with each other. And then one parent would turn to the child and ask for that child's allegiance in his or her fight with the other parent. Now, what would happen is there was no good outcome for the child. It was a double-bind catch-22 situation, because either they had to accept what I call the seduction of the first parent, to join, to reject and deprecate the other parent, or if the child refused, then that parent would reject them. So there were no good outcomes.
Yeah.
A double-bind situation is when you don't have good choices, and that's why it caused psychosis in these children.
One thing, Linda, when you're talking about this, is this parental alienation syndrome? Does the child cause that, or is that initiated by the parent that would have custody of the child in most cases?
It doesn't have. It's initiated by the parent. Children naturally will not side with one parent over the other. Children will instinctively say, "I want and need both parents. I'm going to stay out of this." But what happens is that when one parent, particularly the parent with more influence, so it's often the residential parent, but not always. I mean, 8 out of the 32 cases of parental alienation I wrote about in my book occurred with the non-residential parent, where they have the money and they would start bribing the child and seducing the child to side with them. So it does happen that way. Most of the time it's the residential parent, but not always.
Yeah.
This dynamic of asking the child to side with one parent, that is the dynamic of parental alienation syndrome.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't have the diagnostic label as such, it was rejected even by the DSM-5 task force for a variety of reasons. They didn't want the child labeled, for one thing.
Yeah.
But what they are planning on doing, and we have good evidence that they're doing, they're going to describe the dynamic of turning a child against a parent by one parent as psychological abuse of a child. And if that language is in the DSM-5, that to me is worth much more than a diagnosis and a label. Because at that point, you can criminalize that behavior, which I believe it is. It's emotional child abuse. It should be criminalized. And I would rather have the behavior criminalized as child abuse than any label that we use. It doesn't matter.
Okay, Mark, your comment.
Linda, I have a question here. Many times when you have children in the custody of one parent, you'll have that custodial parent many times will tell people, well, I'll just leave it up to the child. Mm-hmm. Whether if that child goes to the other parent or goes to the extended family's functions and that types of things.
Well, then if, you're abrogating your parental responsibility. Do you let a child decide if they're going to go to school? Do you let a child decide if they're going to keep a medical appointment? That is the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard. The relationship with a parent is so important to the child's emotional, cognitive, and physical development that you would never abrogate parental responsibility to let that child decide that. Besides, if the child's been brainwashed by a parent that they're so dependent on, the residential parent, let's say, the only thing they're going to say is they don't want a relationship with the other parent. It isn't safe to go up against a parent you're dependent on.
Yeah.
I've worked with hundreds of adults. Even adults can't confront their parents. So you would expect a child to confront their parents?
Yeah. Hey, Linda, we have a break coming up. Can you hold on just a couple of minutes?
Sure.
We have a commercial break. We'll be right back.